When St Anne's first called me just over a year ago, I really didn't know how to react. The hospice, the place where people go to die, that wasn't quite in my plans at all. Let me explain. From the very first time in 2013, when my wife Lena was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, I'd managed to take care of her pretty much by myself without extra help. Sure, it was getting harder now, much harder, but how was a hospice going to help me? Let's go back a bit to that diagnosis. Lena, my beautiful, funny, adventurous wife, my partner, my best friend for 44 years, and the mother of my 3 kids, certainly had memory issues. She'd already lost her ability to read and write. She couldn't handle money. She couldn't go outside the house by herself, because if she did, she wouldn't find her way back home. But she was physically fit. In fact, she was fitter than I was, which was a problem sometimes when we went shopping. She had a habit in the supermarket of grabbing someone's shopping trolley and rushing away to the other side of the store before any of us could know where she'd gone. And try explaining to a stranger why your wife has stolen their shopping before they've even paid for it. But we handled that kind of situation. As the years passed, though, it wasn't so funny anymore. By 2018, she'd lost her language, first her English and then her native Swedish. And then by lockdown, her body was shutting down too. She was bedbound. There was no more exploring for Lena now. She was a prisoner in our front room, which we turned into a hospital room. But we could still handle everything. I was in fairly good shape physically. I'd started running when Lena was first diagnosed. And we had a ceiling hoist installed, which meant that I could, by myself, do all the things that I needed to do to take care of washing and dressing and toileting, that sort of thing. More than that, we didn't need outside carers because, after all, it was me that knew her best. We'd lived together for so many years. I knew intimately and intuitively what Lena's needs were and how she would respond. So it was fine for me to carry on. I was helped as well by the fact that my kids were close to us. In fact, one of them came to live with us. He's still living with me and standing down there filming this. Can't get rid of him. But I had the help that I needed at that time. So I didn't ask the hospice to call us. How it happened, I think, was that Barbara, who was our contact at the local GP, realised before I did that we were getting close to the end when we spoke about the number of seizures that Lena was having. And so I remember sitting down at my dining room table on that very first meeting that we had with myself, our 3 kids, and with Naomi, who I see here sitting in the background, standing in the background. I hope I'm not going to embarrass you here, Naomi. What we did in that very first session was to talk through an end-of-life plan. Where did Lena want to be? Where did we want her to be? Under what circumstances might we want to move her into a hospital or a hospice? What plans had we made if she stopped breathing? Did we want to see her resuscitated? What arrangements did we want to make for her in her final hours? Have we thought about that? Have we made funeral arrangements? How did we want to remember her? And that was an incredibly difficult time for us, a very emotional time. Yeah, we talked before about funeral arrangements, and we'd all agreed, me and the kids, what we wanted to do. But I'd done absolutely nothing about it. In our meeting with Naomi, we came face to face with the facts that we needed to act. And it was Naomi's calm, matter-of-fact, empathetic presentation that guided us through it. We were taking care of Lena, and Naomi was taking care of us and our emotions. And from that time forward, we had stellar support from the hospice, from Naomi and all her colleagues here. Previously, with the NHS, care had been reactive. When we had a problem, we called the NHS and generally they sorted things out. But now, with the hospice behind us, everything was proactive. Our needs were anticipated. And Naomi came up with solutions that I'd never realised were possible. In fact, in many cases, I'd never even thought about them. For example, she arranged for a dentist to come and visit at home. She arranged for a speech and language therapist to come by and help Lena when she had problems with her swallowing. For me, she arranged a geriatric specialist to come and help me to take care of those seizures that Lena was having. She arranged a weekly or every other couple of weeks visit from Hospice at home, someone who could come and sit with Lena for a couple of hours, giving me a very precious couple of hours off away from those care responsibilities that I'd had 24/7 for years. And then we needed to put into place the drugs that were needed for the end-of-life care so that we could do that at home, which is where we wanted Lena to be. We needed to meet with the nurses, the district nurses, who could come and administer those drugs at the end. Again, all that was arranged by the hospice. And finally, Naomi made sure that I had a list of emergency telephone numbers so that I could call people day and night when things went wrong, as they did at the end. And the end came in February of this year. And at that time, we were able to keep her at home, which is where Lena had wanted to be. It just wasn't possible. It wouldn't have been possible without the help of the hospice. And that care has continued after the death of Lena. That's why we're all here today. The help continues. It's why our kids are grateful to be able to sign up for the bereavement service that is available as well. And we've had all this help from the hospice. Not once did the hospice demand anything back from us. They're a shining example of the principles that we admire so much in the NHS, working together, providing care which is treating people with respect and dignity, making sure that there's compassion, and providing that care to everybody equally, irrespective of race or religion or background or interests or their ability to pay. And yet, the hospice isn't a full part of the NHS service. Only 30% of their funding is provided by the NHS. Without the support of people like us, it's impossible for them to continue to provide improved and better services. I know, for example, that the hospice wants to provide hospice at home help in all their centres. That's not available yet. Whoops. That's not available yet from the Heald Green Centre, but will be if we can provide that support. Without our support, in the end, hospices would die, and that would be tragic. So in November last year, while Lena was still with us, I thought, how can we pay back? How can we give something back? I thought, well, I used to be a runner, and the Manchester 10K race is taking place in May. So why don't I do that and raise some money for the hospice? I was a little bit apprehensive about it because the last time I'd raced was in 2017 when I managed to damage quite severely both my Achilles heels and was out of action for about 18 months. And I wasn't in great shape back in November, but I thought I'd got 6 months, let's do it. And I'm pleased to tell you that a month ago, almost a month ago, I did manage to complete that Manchester 10K run and to meet my fundraising target. I wasn't quite as fast at pushing 75 as I was when I was 65, but I managed it with only slightly injuring the Achilles again, and I'm standing here today and I'm ready for the next one, the half marathon that comes up in October. Running's not for everyone. I understand that. It's not the way everyone is going to raise money for the hospice, but there are lots of ways in which we can help. For example, these gardens, according to Heather, have all been managed by volunteers entirely. I know that there are lots of opportunities to help in the shops and in driving. So it doesn't just need to be money. Of course, money is important, our donations matter, but also we can provide help in other ways. We can do a lot as well by telling people about the stories that we have. I have a website, it's called Miles Posts, it's Alan Miles, milesposts.com, and on that one I'm telling the story of Lena and myself. It's called The Marathon Years. It's the story of our 10 years plus defying dementia. It's a love story, It's a story of running, and it's a story of the hospice and the help that we had. What we're trying to do is to show people what the hospice can provide. I suspect that many people, and there are 700,000 carers of dementia working with people at home in this country, many of those will be in the same position as I was, where I knew absolutely nothing about the hospice except I thought it was a place where people went to die. It's so much more than that. Of course, it does that extraordinarily well too. But there's so much that we have to be grateful for. Maybe you've got stories that you'd like to share. If so, I'd love to hear from you later. Perhaps come and see me afterwards so that we can make contact arrangements, because I'd love to publish some of those as well on the website. So to conclude, it's been too long already. Thank you, St Anne's Hospice, for everything that you've done for us and my family and for all of us here. You've been absolutely extraordinary, and you've been such a beacon of service and something which is really missing in the world today and which we desperately need, and that's selflessness, putting other people before yourself. Thank you so much.